Well, I think it's about a shift of psychology towards them as well, where you sort of realize as we tend to think ourselves as powerless in the face of these forces, right? We're not. I went to places that begun to regulate these things, but I think to get to that point where we're fighting for regulation, you have to sort of go, we're not medieval peasants begging at the court of King Zuckerberg and King Musk for a few little crumbs of attention from their table, right? We're the free citizens of democracies. We own our own minds. We've got to take them back. So we need to see this as not like we're the broken, feeble people who, there's something wrong with you. Pull yourself together. You can be like, no, we've been violated, right? Our children have been violated by these forces that from the food industry to the way our schools work. It's not the fault of teachers at all. They resisted these things, to the way our employment works at the moment. All sorts of these factors have. But think about, give you an example of one, right? So in France in 2018, they were having a huge crisis of what they called le burnout, which I don't think I need to translate. And the French government, under pressure from labour unions, set up an inquiry to figure out why is everyone so burned out all the time? And they discovered it was partly due to a massive change. 40% of French workers felt they could never stop checking their phone or email the whole time they were awake, because their boss could message them at any time of the day or night, and if you didn't answer, you'd be in trouble, right? Now, think about the change from our childhood. Were your mum and dad ever contacted by their boss after they came home from the end of work? I don't remember my parents ever having to, like, when you finished work, right? The only people who were on call when we were children were the Prime Minister and doctors. And even doctors weren't on call all the time, right? So we've gone from almost no one being on call to almost half the economy being permanently on call. And it means that you can't unwind, you can't decompress. If you're constantly a bit of your brain is going, oh shit, what work crap. If we're basically always almost at work, I can give those people all the lovely advice in the world about buy K-safe and go through the other 12 factors that are harming our attention. If they can't do it, they can't do it, right? So that's why the French government came up with it. Again, under pressure from labour unions, it would never have happened if there hadn't been organised workers in France, came up with a really good partial solution to this. They changed the law to introduce something called the right to disconnect. It's very simple. Every worker in France has to have in their work contract their work hours clearly laid out. And when your work hours are over, you don't have to look at your phone or check your email. When I was in Paris, Rent-A-Kill, the pest control company, was fined €70,000 for complaining that one of their workers didn't check his email an hour after he left work, right? So you can see how that's a big collective change. There's been this change in technology, and it's led to this effect where our employers invade our time in a way that would have been unthinkable before, right? And so you have to have a collective response to that. There'll be some people watching and listening who are really powerful in their workplace and can go to their boss and go, I'm not checking my email after 5 o'clock anymore, but I doubt there's many people watching and listening like that. Most people, we have to do that together, right? If we all do it together, then we can force this change and it makes everyone's life better, including, by the way, the employers. Their lives are better. It's A, they also are knackered. B, having a knackered, exhausted workforce isn't good even in narrow economic terms, right? So you can see how these changes are things we can fight for, but it requires us to get out of this defensive crouch. Like, oh, what's wrong with me? If you can't check your email every fucking hour of the day, there's nothing wrong with you. You're a healthy human being who doesn't want to be looking at your email every hour of the day, right? So we've got to get out of this defensive crouch. I think there's something wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with us. There's something wrong with these changes, but we can reverse these changes or tame them.